Among the explicit verses of Allah, there are many which inform humans of divine rewards or merits. But are you aware that if we look at those verses closely with the knowledge of virtue, which prioritize responsibility before the all-knowing, or the relative worth among humans' limited perspective, there is one small detail that often overlooked from the verses. Certainly, even before, humans had already realized that trying to understand the verses of Allah was not a simple matter. Therefore, so many qualifications have been set for people who were allowed to do that, before the verses itself should become a practical moral compass. Unfortunately, even that is not enough. Human being is an entity comprised of 7 layers of existence: fitrah, spiritual heart, nafsu, feelings, minds, thoughts, and physical bodies. If we use ray of light which powers the heart of humans as they make their decisions in life as a parable to these explicit verses of Allah, simply arranging qualifications on the outside is not effective, since inside every human being there lies nafsu, which always bend all those verses from their true meanings. Trying to understand the explicit verses of Allah is one among so many challenges of life who anyone may aspire to pursue. However, nafsu always manages to bias those insights. Whenever this happens, the verses causes other afflictions inside humans' hearts instead of healing it. The possessiveness subtly encourages humans to claim those verses, consider themselves privy to the whole meaning. The self-righteousness subtly pushes humans to see themselves as the perfect representative to those verses, unaware or simply ignorant of humans' nature to be insatiable, wrong, and forgetful. The praise hunger subtly influences humans to have the need to announce their possessiveness and perfect understanding of those verses to the world, ironically spreading misinformation in the process. The combination of these biases in the end prevents humans from ever performing the clues given to them correctly. These biases, more often than not, manage to confound humans that they take the exact opposite direction without any awareness. This unfortunate situation is what often called the blindness of the heart. After reading this verse, humans with very limited perspective would assume that the Almighty, who created the whole cosmos, needs humans to do good deeds and to avoid bad deeds. Otherwise, why would Allah promise humans rewards? Meanwhile, others would look deeper. Is it really logical for the most exalted to be wanting humans to do good deeds? Why would he? Does God somehow profit whenever humans do good deeds? Similarly, does God really take loss whenever humans do bad deeds? These preconceptions about how humans' relationships with Allah would decide whether any action humans do possess any redeeming quality, especially quality as seen by the Almighty. Let us take the first example to discuss. In the first example, humans consider their relationship with Allah no different from trading. Their vision statement of life would be along the line, live prosperly and dying all the way to paradise. Considering that statement, there are several points that need to be brought forth. 1. To live prosperly, one needs assets, a lot of them. 2. Assets can be obtained through power and or magic. 3. But let us not forget that there are certain ways in acquiring assets which would generate rewards, and others that would bring about retributions from God. Thus, their mission statement would be to find assets as many as possible with certain procedures as directed through the verses by the Creator, as long as the rewards generated are bigger than the punishments or retributions. In the end, we are guaranteed paradise. Very simple, right? Perhaps for some people. Now, let us make a projection, a simple calculation of rewards and retributions. Let's say that in average, humans get to live 70 years. If I always perform prayers 5 times a day since I was 10, and 1 mandatory prayer equal to 1 reward, and once a day I perform communal prayer, then my lifetime rewards from prayer would be: if I always perform fasting in Ramadan since I was 10, and 1 fasting equal to 100 rewards, then my lifetime rewards from fasting would be: if I always give zakat and money to charity since I was 20, and 1 zakat equal to 500 rewards, then my lifetime rewards would be: if I always perform umrah every year since I was 50, and 1 umrah equal to 50,000 rewards, then my lifetime rewards would be: if I perform Hajj or pilgrimage 3 times during my lifetime, and 1 pilgrimage equal to 5,000 rewards, then my lifetime rewards would be: if all my lifetime rewards were accumulated, then my total lifetime rewards would be: praise be to Allah. Remember, this is divine rewards, not dollars. So that number is actually pretty numerous, especially considering this verse. Whoever comes on the day of judgment with a good deed will have 10 times of like thereof to his credit, and whoever comes with an evil deed will not be recompensed except the like thereof, and they will not be wrong. In other words, as long as my punishments do not exceed my rewards, it is only certain that I am already booked in paradise. The next question: how many sins I could do every single day but still manage to get into heaven? My total projection of rewards is: let's say I am 20 years old now. If that total reward were to be divided by the number of days remains in my life, then my sin quota per day would be: if that total reward were to be divided by the number of months remains in my life, then my sin quota per month would be: if that total reward were to be divided by the number of years remains in my life, then my sin quota per year would be. Considering that I already committed myself to perform whatever order the Almighty had decreed, and also to avoid His restrictions, I am confident that I would be able to attain paradise, even if I do sins every day. As long as it doesn't exceed the quota, I would still be safe. How would the knowledge of virtue read upon this? Quite detailed calculations, although a bit simple. But then again, that is not the problem. The problem is that in that scenario, humans forgot to consider what kind of services would be accepted by Allah. Do people think that they will be left to say, "We believe," and they will not be tried? So the question is, are those 5-time prayers, fasting of Ramadan, zakat, charity, umrah, and pilgrimage he did all his life, have managed to pass the test given by Allah? Humans were created to become the leader of cosmos, but that status was not something to be claimed by merely existing. That humans was the ruler of every other creature they consider beneath them, period. This status was actually the final destination that humans need to get to through an education system called life. Humans, created to be vulnerable and in need of so many things to survive, were also granted reasons and logics, a choice how they would fulfill those needs, whether using the methods of nafsu or the approach of fitrah. Humans, created from holy spirits and physical bodies, must elevate their fitrahs inside of them above nafsu before ever reaching the status of a real reader. All those noble deeds and services commanded by Allah were actually clues so that humans would stop becoming a slave to their nafsu, so that humans in every second of their life always manage to take one step closer to the initial and final purpose humans created in the first place. Because humans who became a slave to their nafsu were walking steadily through their lives, yet never actually took a step forward, while their karma or retribution before Allah kept accumulating. This was very unfortunate. Humans controlled by nafsu were either not capable or not eager to think beyond trading with their maker, as if those orders and restrictions were of God's needs instead of humans. The trials of sincerity or the tests of purity of intention over every good deeds and services humans perform are a system being applied as gradual advancement. How relatively closer humans are with the initial and final purpose of their creation. The more winnings fitrah have over nafsu inside, through every trials of life, the higher humans are regarded before the Almighty. The trials of life can be divided into three types: the trials to cleanse the possessiveness, the trials to cleanse the self-righteousness, and the trials to cleanse the praise hunger. Even though there are only three basics, humans' destinies and choices they took throughout their lives made the real manifestations of those trials become practically uncountable. A human being born as female would have different trials from those born as male. A human being born in the war zone would have different trials from those born in peaceful place. A human who chose to diligently learn everything about life would have different trials from those who were lazy. A human who chose to go along with the current of culture and society would have different trials from those who chose to go against it. Even though every individual had different and unique trials, the standard of valuation before the Almighty remained the same. Those who wanted to and managed to choose fitrah over nafsu would move forward, while those who chose nafsu would stay in place. This quality is the one called the level of faith, or the grade of sincerity of humans. Therefore, the detailed rewards and punishments projection discussed before has to be adjusted. Every service humans perform, be it 5-time prayers, fasting, zakat, charity, umrah, or pilgrimage, must first pass the test of sincerity before even being counted as an advancement through the level of faith before the Almighty. In this condition, these questions, which directed to the possessiveness, the self-righteousness, and the praise hunger, become relevant to ask to oneself: are my prayers purely done only because of Allah? Are there no longer demands from me to Allah, so that He would redeem my prayers with things that I wanted? Are there no superiority or self-righteousness inside me from performing those services? Especially whenever I see others who did not do as often or as well as I did. Am I able to correct the false assumption that the riches that I gave away was mine? That the charity and zakat were actually a way to cleanse my heart from the possessiveness over everything that Allah lent to me? Considering that cosmos was and always will be His since the beginning anyway? Are my umrah and pilgrimage done only because of Allah? Am I able to cleanse this heart of mine from the desire to show off my success in services to the world? Am I able to hold on to awareness that services are done out of humans' needs, not of Allah's? Nafsu is inseparable part of human being. Since the beginning, what's expected of humans were not to get rid of it, but instead to control it. Fitrah must be able to become the leader of Nafsu. If those questions of reflection could not be answered truthfully by humans before the all-knowing, then the reward retribution projection as described previously becomes something else entirely. Even though I always perform 5 times prayers, fastings, pay zakat and give money to charity, attain umrah and pilgrimage, but since all of those could never be done with a pure intention only because of Allah, never even managed to pass the test by Allah, then my total rewards would be 0. Humans who already sacrifice so much time and energy their whole lives, yet never really done so with a pure and sincere heart, without the influence from nafsu, were very unfortunate. They were lost, yet never even aware of the fact. In addition, the above projection did not even mention all consequences of human actions, the manifestation of the justice of Allah. Every single thing that human does will return to them one way or another. Compared to this, humans who never did any of those services, not even once in their life, but managed to walk through life with a sincere and pure heart that their deeds were accepted by Allah, in fact, were worth more before Allah. That's because they never demand anything from the Almighty. They never consider themselves superior or sacred, always aware of the shortcomings, insatiable, wrong and forgetful, and they never submit to the urge to announce their nobility to the world. When they died, their spiritual heart were of better condition compared to those who always perform physical services, yet at the same time always manage to be corrupted by nafsu. It is not unusual that having a long life doesn't equal to having a good life. For those reasons, my dear friends, let us from this time forward always remind ourselves in every step of our lives. Make sure that every word coming out of our mouth, every choice that we make, always made under the influence of fitrah, not nafsu, so that every action that we do in life can actually worth something before Allah, so that we can step forward to the initial and final purpose of our creation, not just accumulating retributions which have to be paid sooner or later before the Almighty. Thank you for your attention. Salam.